Hello and welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Millie and today I'm going to be talking about the new Glitch Liquid Multichrome eyeshadows from Lethal Cosmetics. I know we're talking about multichromes on a Friday and not a Monday. So they have 7 shades total and I bought 4 of them. I originally was only going to buy these more kind of iridescent shades. They're not like fully iridescent, but they definitely are much lighter compared to the other options. There was one shade that looked similar to like a Galaxy Dust Shifter from Divina, if you know what I mean, like kind of has a little bit more pigment, but not quite like a super deep jeweled multichrome. But I was also really curious to try out one of the other shades that is definitely more of like a black based multichrome. So I wanted to see, because sometimes depending on the type of shade, you could see different formulas. I've seen that with the Nessa Myricks, for example. And you know how I feel about those liquid multichromes, but I digress. So I'm going to be doing some swatch comparisons, and then I'm going to be putting them all on my lids and doing a full day wear test. I would say on average around 7, 8, 9-ish hours. I know that's not a full day for some people, but I feel like that's a good enough gauge to really get a feel for these. And I'm also going to be trying these on different primers because I do have oily hooded lids, so it is easy for me to experience some sort of longevity wear time issues with just regular eyeshadows, you know, powder eyeshadows, but also especially liquid eyeshadows. They just seem to, you know, the formula just has to be right. And I've definitely found some formulas that are really good for hooded eyes, and then some that are just not so great. So let's get right into the swatches and then the looks, and then at the end of the video I'll give you some of my thoughts. So on this side, I primed with the Smashbox 24/7 primer, and on the other eye with the Urban Decay Primer Potion. This is like a sample size, so it's super tiny. And for the palette, I'm going to be using the Profusion Electric Blues. I just got this palette in Walmart yesterday, and so I'm really curious to try it. Going in with the shade Frisky, and I will only be applying one eye on camera for the mattes because you don't need to see both of them. It's going to be the same look. I don't really love this Smashbox primer in terms of just how eyeshadows look on it, but this primer is just absolutely crease proof. At least on my hooded eyes, I've never had anything crease on it. Putting down Enigma on the outer corner. See how this layers. I am not very hopeful, but so far, no patchiness. I'm just gonna bring that blue shade under my lower lash line as well. So on this side, I'm gonna go in with just the applicator straight out of the tube and put it on. And it's doing that thing where if I go over it, again, it just wipes off the product, which I absolutely hate when that happens. So we're gonna kind of, if it looks definitely patchy, I think I should have let me try to put on more. Okay, let me try to fix it with my finger, see what the finger does, because sometimes the finger, yeah, can just wipe it off. Okay, I'm gonna try not to look up so that I let that dry while I do this other eye. I'm using the silicone applicator. Seems like this one is distributing it a little bit more evenly. Oh, I can see the shift on the outer corner, so cool. Yeah, this one, but it's also wiping it off if I go over it, so I don't know. And then I'm gonna tap out the edge so it's not too harsh. I'm gonna go in with a silicone applicator here too, see if I can even it out. And now we wait and we dry. Okay, I think these are dry for the most part. I feel maybe a little wetness out here, but it feels pretty dry. I can feel them on my lid. I don't think I put that much on, but I think I'm gonna try to put a thinner layer on in the next look. But overall, I would say it definitely looks a bit patchy. I would definitely put down like if you wanted this to be mostly blue, put down a blue eyeshadow and then layer this on top of it. And so let's see how this wears. Another day, another multi-chrome, and today we're going to be actually using these two. I'm going to do like a two-tone look, and I primed already with the ABH primer. Going in with Cuddle on this side, and it's going to be a super simple look. I'm just going to go in with some mattes in the crease, and then I'm going to pack this all over the lid, since for yesterday's look with the blue multi-chrome glitch shade, I didn't put anything on the lid, and I kind of wish I had. So I thought today we could see how they layer over a matte shadow, see if they look a little bit streaky. It could possibly just be because the skin is poking through, you know, and it's a totally different color. For this other look, I'm going in with Player One from the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. I feel like this purple will go really well with the shade, though they are like not that different from each other, but it's still gonna be a fun look. This was definitely brighter. That's gonna look really funny on Zoom. And so next I'm just gonna pack it on all over the lid. And so that's the thing with the ABH primer, the P. Louise primer, any really kind of primer that is tacky, is you really want to make sure you press in the shadow, because that's what's going to be technically setting it. Since you're not going to be setting it, you need to be able to set it with the shadow you're already putting on top of it, instead of setting it with like a translucent powder and then going on top of it. Extra raspy today as I just woke up and started filming basically. So I'm just finishing both the lower lash lines with those shades I went on my lid with. So yesterday I used a silicone applicator to apply these, and the applicator it came with. So today I'm using this flat brush. This is from AOA Studio, from Shop Miss A, I believe, and I just put some of it on top, and this looks so beautiful. I feel like this would look patchy had I not laid down the pink. We're gonna kind of wing this out because I took it a little too far. But this looks really pretty layered. I don't see any patchiness. I think it's because we have that pink eyeshadow underneath. But very, very beautiful, very ethereal. So then on this side, we're actually gonna go in with a finger because I'm just curious. I really wanna try different ways of applying these. Feels really slippery. Of course, the only thing is I don't have much control, so I'm gonna go in with a brush. I think the brush really just worked well. I took that way too far up and then kind of trying to wing it a little bit. I'm gonna tap out the edge, see if that does anything. So this one I would say looks a little patchy, at least in person. I'm not sure if it's because of the finger application. Let's get these to dry down. So that dried down, and I do want to try layering these and just seeing how they wear, how they feel. So I'm going in with a brush and adding just a little bit more on top. It looks really pretty, but it looks kind of like almost chunky. Something about it just doesn't look smooth. You know, like if I was to use a metallic eyeshadow. I definitely brought that up too far, so I'm actually gonna go in with this brush and just try to pull in the edges. And make sure you let these dry before opening your lid fully, especially if you have hooded eyes, because otherwise it will basically dry with the crease already in there. So here are the two finished looks. I think I wish I had done like the purple and the blue instead of the purple and the pink, because they are pretty close. Alright, third and final look. This is with Entropy, and so this is the shade that's pretty much equivalent to Smolder from Clionadh, which is just in general, that kind of shift is probably one of my favorites. It's just very, very strong of a shift because there's such contrast between all the shades that are shifting. So very excited. And I'm priming with the Natasha Denona primer, and I will set this just very lightly. I kind of prefer to. So I'm just gonna go in very lightly the underbrow area. I'm gonna go in with Remission right here on the inner crease. And this is from Lethal. I'm gonna be using all Lethal shadows for this look. And I totally meant to do that for all the other looks, but I just somehow completely forgot. I was so focused on trying to film this and get this up for you guys. Next to it, going in with Sequins. This is gonna be quite an interesting look. I just felt like doing one super colorful one. And the way that these shades shift in Entropy is you can very easily make the look to match with the mattes to look very like Christmassy. So that's exactly what I was trying to stay away from. I believe I have already done a look where I kind of tried to reflect the shades of the shift of like smolder. So next, going in with Surge. And then for the outer corner, I'm gonna pop on some Eden because this does shift to a green, so that's why I really wanted to plan this look around that shift. So I'm kind of using the blue as a transition between the purple and the pink. Going back in with Surge since we lost a little bit of that. Alright, so I was going to leave it like this, but I know from swatching that it does look a little bit streaky, so I want to really prevent that. So I'm going to go and put down the green all over the lid, but I'm not going to be blending it into any of the other shades. I'm just going to pack it on there. I would go in with a black, but honestly, I feel like it doesn't make that much of a difference to add a black base because this is already a dark multi-chrome, so it kind of already has that black base. And because it is already pretty opaque, I don't really think that this is going to impact the color per se, like using a dark green versus using a black eyeshadow all over the lid. Yesterday I used this synthetic brush, so that's what I'm gonna do again. So I'm just gonna go in on both eyes. There is a little bit of playtime with these shades, so it's kind of swiping it away. I feel like this looks really interesting. I don't know if I really hit the nail on the head with this one, but I'm gonna tap out this outer section, see if it kind of blends out. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of do a full cut crease almost. Alright, so next I'm gonna let this dry. This is key. You gotta really make sure that you don't feel that like cold sensation on your lids anymore, so that it's fully dry before you open your eyes. Otherwise, of course, it's going to crease. So just gonna wait for this to dry. Alright, that feels pretty dry, so I'm gonna go in and finish off this look with Eden. I'm going in with Gateway. I'm gonna use that as like an inner corner highlight. That looks so pretty. I feel like I have to tap it a little bit. Ooh, that is so gorgeous. I don't know why I just said gorgeous like that. So here's the finished look. I do feel like just when I go really up close and look at it, it looks a little streaky, and I don't quite feel like that purple was a good idea. It doesn't really go with the tone at all, but it is what it is. Oh Jesus, oh Jesus. So if you watch all three looks, you would probably already kind of know the way I'm feeling about these. And it really, really sucks because I love Lethal Cosmetics. I love their whole just brand vibe and everything, how transparent they are, and I love their matte eyeshadows. However, these are just not my favorite formula by far. Natasha Denona still reigns supreme, as well as the Karla Cosmetics jelly multichromes that I've tried. I've really tried 2 shades, but those are really amazing, and these just did not wow me. Now let's talk about the last shade I tried, which is also on my lids, and that's Entropy, which is basically a black based multichrome, and it's the same exact color as Smolder from Cliona, which is one of my absolute favorite types of multichromes in general. Like, just when it comes to shifts, it's just such a vibrant and impactful shift. But this one, out of the 4, I don't know if it's like slightly different formula. I would assume not. Maybe it has to do something with the pigment, but I mean, you saw it just kept getting worse and worse throughout the day. I tried to add a layer over it, like a thinner layer, to see if I could cover it up and see if that would kind of help. But that did end up flaking off again. And there's just something about this that just, I don't know if it was the eyeshadow primer. I don't know if it was the Natasha Denona primer. So that's why I basically had to redo the look. Like, I couldn't wear it to do the intro and outro. That's how bad it was. So I had to wipe it off. So what I did is prime with the Smashbox 24-hour primer, because that one is my true ride or die. And I redid this shade all over the lid as just a wing so I could do the intro and outro, and also because I am curious to see if it was the primer or not. Either way, I did set that primer, and I don't really think that that should cause a problem. Maybe it was a layering it over an eyeshadow, which also, regardless, that means this shade is just extremely finicky. I always thought that the purpose of liquid eyeshadows was to just kind of smooth the process out, because the one main plus with a liquid eyeshadow of any sort is you avoid any sort of fallout. You know, if they're really good formula, it will just, you can just swipe it on the lid, put it on, forget it, and go on about your day, and that way it can just save you a lot of time. But with this, it's just so finicky to try to get it to work compared to like the Natasha Denona multichromes. Those are so easy to work with, and you don't need to make sure to put like an eyeshadow under them because they're not streaky. That's the thing about all of these, is even when I just swatched them on the back of my hand, I was like, oh no, these are a little streaky, which doesn't always, you know, tell you the whole story, of course, but it's a much more like liquid formula compared to the Natasha Denona, which that one is like a more of a moussey kind of formula. So I was definitely apprehensive going into it, and unfortunately it was the case, and it looks streaky on the lid. And I just feel like if I'm gonna use base multichrome, I shouldn't have to layer it over some sort of a black base, whether that's an eyeshadow primer or if that's a matte black eyeshadow. I don't have to do that with my pressed regular eyeshadow multichromes. So I just feel like, why would I have to do that extra step just to use a liquid one? That's just me personally. But let's talk about the other 3 shades, which are the more like kind of iridescent, but they have just a little bit more color than like a typical iridescent shade. They're not completely translucent. I would say these were really, really great, like completely on the other side of the spectrum compared to Entropy, as you saw in the video. The only one I'm a little iffy about is 0 Day, which is this purple. It just looked a little like flaky. Either way, these are pretty streaky, so I would definitely recommend putting some sort of an eyeshadow down so that you don't really get to see that streakiness, even though I was still kind of able to see it with this shade. But overall, I think these 2 are probably my favorite ones. I think for the most part, I'm going to be using these for an inner corner highlight or maybe even a face highlight. So I know it's much harder to find multichrome eyeshadow type of products in Europe. It's just a lot less common. There's a lot of indie brands coming out of USA and some in Canada that do offer multichrome. But of course, the shipping is very expensive. So I would say that if you are US based or Canada based, I would just advise you to buy from local, you know, local to the country's multichromes. But if you're Europe based, I would say if you want to try out a multichrome and you also like a more subtle type of multichrome, then you could definitely try these. It will cost you a lot less than having to order all the way from US or from Canada, of course. However, I would be a little wary recommending you try these, but maybe that's just like my personal experience. Maybe that wouldn't be yours, but these are $21 each, and then the deeper ones are $24, and you do get like quite a bit more product for that price than Natasha Denona. But realistically speaking, I mean, it would take you a long time to get through either of these products, I would say, and definitely a pressed eyeshadow, which those obviously will last you a lot longer. After trying out so many different liquid types of multichromes, I honestly feel like I'm probably okay with the ones I have, and I don't really plan on buying any more. I just find that I always come back to pressed eyeshadows. They're just so much easier to use. But of course, it could be your preference and you might absolutely love just cream eyeshadows or liquid eyeshadows, and that's your preference and you find that easy. But for me personally, I feel like it's just some of them are a little finicky, some of them don't have the best longevity, you know, some of them look a little chunky on the lid. So I just much rather just stick to my pressed eyeshadows, and I'm fine with that. I feel like the only time I would maybe buy more liquid multichromes would be if like Natasha Denona came out with some more shades that were like really unique. But other than that, I already, as you could see from my swatch comparisons, have some doubles between these. So I think I'm like kind of all set on liquid multichromes now. But of course, don't quote me on that. So that's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below which shade is your favorite. Also, let me know if you picked these up and how you're liking them. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup, lots of shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadow content owning my channel, and much more to come. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.